Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another Ramadan Health Show special with me, Alistair Greener. During this holy month, we've been discussing health topics relating to fasting. We've been looking back in history to really understand the true meaning of why our mental and physical well-being is even more of a concern when we're not eating or drinking for at least 16 hours a day. Today, we'll be looking at the physical and mental health benefits of praying. It's a real pleasure to welcome back Ustadha Sidra Naeem, and together we'll be asking questions which may not have even crossed your minds. Maybe you really wanted to know the answer, for example, of why prayer, also known as salat, was introduced and what benefits each posture brings. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you back, and we've got lots to talk about, and today specifically about praying. But before we talk to Sidra more, I came across this quote from Kabir Edmund Helminski, which is in Living Presence, a Sufi way to mindfulness and the essential self. This is what he writes. The Islamic ritual prayer, practiced 5 times a day, is a sequence of standing, bowing, prostrating and kneeling, accompanied by prescribed verbal affirmations and lines from the Quran, selected and recited by the individual. The prayer is understood to be invalid without a mindful witnessing of the presence of God. Physically, it exercises the major joints, especially the spinal column, massages the intestinal tract, transmits a reflex to the liver, regulates the breath, and stimulates the frontal cortex of the brain as it's brought to the ground, while momentarily leaving the heart in a higher position than the brain. Salat is a form that integrates mindfulness, mental precision, affirmation, devotion, and stretching. Done 5 times a day for a lifetime, it has profound effects on the body and the soul. So, Sidra, let's start off by maybe elaborating on that a little bit more. I know it's a passage that you're very familiar with, aren't you?
Yes, definitely. I think that everything basically, right from the call to prayer, right from the actual postures of prayer and the actual routine, right down to the end when we are expressing our worries and problems to God, all of those things, together with the Arabic language as well, all of those result in everything in that quote.
And there's no question, when you look at the whole being, mind, body and soul, it's absolutely all there. Let's go back really to the beginning, really, because people will go and pray every day and it'll become part of their routine. But sometimes the context of praying and what it's actually doing for people and the background, they might not be so familiar with. So maybe take us back to why people pray and why it came into being in the first place.
Yes, that's actually a very, very interesting question. Basically, according to Islam, humans were made to worship God. We were actually made to worship him. So basically what happens is that right at the beginning of time, when Adam was made, our father, all our souls were made and we all prostrated to God and we said that we will worship only you and nobody else. So a covenant was made. And then what happened was man came on earth and we forget. Did you know that the word human in Arabic, insan, is forgetful? So we come onto earth and we forget. But our souls, they actually remember still. There's this guiltiness because our souls remember we made that covenant with God. So there's this restlessness. And there's a quote in the Quran that says that truly in the remembrance of God do hearts find rest. So at the time, just before Islam came, the people of Arabia had completely forgotten about God. They were not remembering him at all. So prayer was reintroduced again, and we pray 5 times a day. And the reason is to remember God. And that's how our hearts find rest.
And of course, during this holy period of Ramadan, you know, there's almost a heightened importance, isn't there?
There is. I mean, all our good deeds are multiplied up to 700 times in Ramadan. And I don't really know anybody who would attempt to fulfill their 4th pillar of Islam without completing their 2nd, which is the 5 daily prayers. So you would find normally, even if people don't usually pray, they would definitely pray in Ramadan. But there's also the extra prayers because Ramadan is actually an anniversary of the Quran being revealed. So every night there is the Tarawih prayers, which is where we try and complete one part of the Quran each night so that by the end we complete the whole Quran. And then there's all the verbal small prayers, short prayers, the du'as that we do when we open our fast and we start our fast as well. So all of that is going on as well. So
what I love is the fact that more we talk and the more I do this show, we learn more of the, if you like, the behind the reasoning for what we do.
Yes.
And, you know, there's always a really good logical reason for why things happen. And one of the things that fascinates me is the structure of prayer.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about how that came to being and how that works.
That's a very interesting question again, because when God told us pray 5 times a day, do you think anybody would have bothered? So nobody would have bothered unless we've got a structure, a timetable, a little bit like in a school. You know, you can't just come in and say you've got 5 lessons today and just get on with it. You need structure. So the timetable really, really helps us, because it breaks down our whole day and it makes our busy life easier. So all our other things, we are slotting in between those prayers. Then we have a reminder, just in case we forget, because we're humans. So we have a reminder, we have a call to prayer. That's part of the structure that helps us to get into the routine. And then, you know, there are so many other parts of prayer. For example, it's a set prayer. There's a very big reason why it's a set prayer, because I might turn around and say to you, well, I already asked for chocolate in the morning to God. I already asked for a slim body at lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, I've already asked for Xbox game. I've got nothing to ask for God on the other 2 prayers, so I'll just leave it, you see. So it's a set prayer for a reason, which makes us then want to do it. And then the part at the end, the optional prayer, is if we want to talk to God and ask for anything or thank him as well.
And the interesting thing that goes along with that, and again, people just do it because it's habit, it's what people do every day, and especially during Ramadan. But what about the protocols? Because that fits very much in with the structure. So again, maybe talk us through some of the reasoning of the protocols.
Yes, so before we even start our prayer, we do have ritual washing, the wudu, and there is actually a very significant reason for that. There are health benefits for that, physical as well as spiritual. So the physical ones, first of all, we are removing any bacteria. There's huge amounts of streptococcus, staphylococcus in our mouths. So we're washing all of that out, making ourselves clean, not just physically, but mentally as well, getting ourselves ready to face God and pray. Also the circulation, while we're massaging all our body parts, it helps with the circulation of our blood. And then spiritually, did you know that each part that we wash, we're actually removing sins from that part? So say, for example, I've backbited or gossiped with my mouth. In between the 2 prayers, when I wash my mouth, what Muslims believe is that we're removing those sins in between the prayers. And that actually makes us mentally more better. The Prophet also told us to do wudu when we're angry. And the latest research has shown that some of the major body parts that we wash are the hottest parts. So we get hot-headed when we're angry. Our hands and our feet, that's where all the sweat glands are. They get hot. So do you know, when we wash, we're cooling ourselves down. We're making ourselves less anxious and our anger is going away. So that, again, is an amazing spiritual benefit there.
And again, exactly, you have the spiritual benefit, but also the absolute logic behind it as well.
Yes.
And of course, during Ramadan, we have the additional factor of fasting.
Yes.
You talked about the prayers during Ramadan, and especially the evening set prayers being that much longer. What effect is that having on us, not just spiritually, but also in our health?
Basically, the prayers on the whole, it's a whole package. So the actual postures of prayer, they're helping us physically. So it's exercise, it helps with arthritis, flexibility of joints. Did you know each posture, you're standing and then you're bowing down, you're exhaling carbon dioxide, you're inhaling oxygen. Think of when you're anxious or you're having a panic attack, people tell you, come on, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and calm down. So you're doing that while you're praying. And then the other, if you look at the psychological side, when you're standing, you're anxious. This is against science here. So you're at the sympathetic mode of your autonomic nervous system when you're stressed. But by the end of prayer, you're on the floor. So you've reached the peace mode, which is the parasympathetic mode of the ANS system. And because of that, then you're all calm. So the whole rituals, the whole protocols, there's a reason for everything. They're like yoga positions as well. They're likened to yoga positions where you're getting rid of negative energy all the time, and then by the end you're full of positive energy as well.
And I love the fact that, again, as we've discussed in previous episodes, this was all thought about, centuries ago, yet today we understand the science, if you like,
Yes.
of why it makes
Yes.
sense and why it's so good for us. And coming back to, the postures you were talking about there,
Yes.
and you touched on it quite lightly about all the different postures and how they actually help our health. Maybe,
Yes.
maybe even with a demonstration in your chair, you could do just
Yes.
explain a couple of them
Yes.
of what that's actually doing for us physiologically.
Yes, I think that the most important posture of prayer is actually the sajda position, which is the position where your head is right on the ground. That is the posture where we believe we are the closest to God. And what happens is our heads are right on the ground, and all the negative electromagnetic waves that we are absorbing throughout the whole day, they are neutralized with the positive electromagnetic waves right in the center of the earth. And the center of the earth, did you know, we are facing actually Mecca, and that is apparently the center of the earth. So all of that is, neutralizing everything. Also, blood is flowing into our brain, including oxygen. So diseases like Alzheimer's, which are rife and happen due to depletion of blood and oxygen, it actually helps with diseases like that. And because of that, there's flexibility of the nervous system as well, the nerves in there. So it's absolutely amazing. That position also, your corpus callosum actually increases in size. And did you know that all the happy hormones, the endorphins, the serotonins, the dopamine, they all increase in your brain. You mentioned about other things like the thalamus. The sensory system completely closes and the parietal lobe slows down. So you're in a complete peace mode in that position. You can actually feel it while you're down there.
And it's amazing, isn't it, those incredible benefits. But what about the length of time that you pray for? We've already established that during Ramadan the prayers are longer. What kind of benefits are there to praying for longer rather than maybe shorter periods of time?
Basically, Ramadan is annual training for the whole year. So because we are doing everything in excess in that month, it actually prepares us then to get into a routine for the rest of the months. And it reminds us also about the Quran, because if you're not reading the Quran, a lot of people, believe it or not, they will not read the Quran in between the months. But at least in that way, they are reading the whole of the Quran once a year. And that helps them really to get through the rest of the year. So.
Now, some people see, Ramadan as a test. You see it as training. It's quite interesting, as always with these things. People have different interpretations. And one of the things that people will always have a view about is the effect of fasting during this period and the beneficial effects that will have. How does the fasting affect when you're praying, when you are adopting these different postures? Does fasting make any difference to that?
Not really, no. In fact, the whole thing goes brilliantly together as a whole package, because in the last programme we actually talked about the physical and spiritual benefits of fasting, which was huge. It was all the internal body organs and everything, and the brain, and all of that together with this package of the prayer, they neatly slot together, and both of them then you actually end up with more health. And that's why it tells you in the Quran that, fasting is prescribed for you. It's amazing. It reminds me of a prescription which God is giving you. It actually says the word prescribed. So it's amazing.
And it's interesting because obviously everyone has their sort of own interpretations we've discussed. Everyone will have their own benefits that they will notice. What about you? What sort of mental benefits do you find? We understand the spiritual benefits as well. You talked about this ability to relax, this ability to be mindful and so on.
Yes.
Talk me through some of the mental benefits that you gain from praying.
I'll tell you what I find the best is at the end when I talk to God. Okay, and that's my personal prayer. It's my direct link with God, and it's like a free counselling process. And that is where all my worries, my problems, my anxiety, my anger, all of it I offload to God. And the gratefulness. So then obviously it's not just asking God for things, but also we try and thank God for things. And that actually really, really helps me, because I can actually do see the wonders of that, because apparently scientists have proven that oxytocin gets released when you are grateful and when you are happy, and that's a happy hormone, and that makes you happy. So I think for me the end process is really good, where I can really cry and I can, you know, it's like a free counselling process where I'm offloading all my worries and problems. And that alone, you know, if you think of worry, it affects your kidneys, stress affects your brain and your heart, all of those things. So indirectly you're actually helping your bodily organs as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how everything almost interconnects.
Yes.
Now, of course, there are a group of people who maybe through disability or age or other reasons find it very difficult to perform all the postures. So sometimes people will be sitting down and so on. But there's still tremendous benefit for them.
Yes, there is, because if you look at the speaking part, just reciting the words of God, did you know, has a huge effect. So what happens is, first, I explained a little bit about this when we were talking about praying over food. When we say the words of God, first of all, we are directly connected with Him. So the words are not being changed. The rhythm and the rhyme of the Arabic is like a song. That makes us happy. It's all beautiful rhyming. And then the cells in our body become whole just by saying the words, even if we're just sitting in a chair and saying words off the Quran. And when those cells become whole, our brains expand, so our corpus callosum increases, and all the happy hormones then as well increase. And did you know our learning, memory, attention and planning gets better as a result of our brains expanding.
And I know that one of the reasons for saying prayers in Arabic is because of this rhythm, because of this rhyming that you get.
Yes, and the direct connecting with God. And it's the same with the Quran. There are so many words within Arabic. Arabic is such an interesting language where you can't even, there's no substitute for those words in English. And if I did translate the Quran in English, the rhyme goes, because not only, sometimes you might be able to find a word that means the same, but it wouldn't rhyme, would it?
We've talked a lot about mindfulness throughout all three of our programmes so far. And for people watching today, and they really want to make the most of Ramadan, they want to get the best spiritual benefits from it, but also those benefits can affect their health. What sort of tips would you give people to maybe really immerse themselves to the point where they're going to get the maximum benefit?
If you stick to the routine of starting your fast, ending your fast, and then in between, do your 5 times prayer on time, with your washing every time before you pray, all your other worldly duties will get slotted in between each prayer nicely. So you know, before this prayer, I have to do this, this and this. Before this prayer, I have to do this, this and this. That organisation really helps a lot. Once you're organised, you get into a routine, and that will then help you for the rest of the year.
And also, it's much easier to maintain focus if you know you've got a routine that you're sticking to. You're not rushing around, you're not, overthinking things. You just know that you're in that nice, calm routine and able to get that mindfulness.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
And for you, this Ramadan, has almost filming these shows, has that maybe helped you in your focus?
Definitely, because I'm thinking of all the chemical reactions that go on in my brain while I'm praying and I'm fasting. I know, that's not the main reason why we do it, but it helps. It does help. I know we're doing it to follow God's command. That's why we're doing it. But the scientific side really does help you to want to do it as well.
And when Ramadan comes to an end, how different do you feel in yourself, both mentally, spiritually and physically?
Much, much better, definitely. Ramadan is actually a rejuvenating month, and you can actually feel it in your health. You get used to not backbiting, it's refraining from all the bad as well, which we often forget, refraining from backbiting and gossiping or lying or fighting or arguing. You get into such a routine that afterwards you think again, should I be doing this? Should I be saying this? And healthy eating as well, that helps.
Yes, well, we talked about that in our previous episodes, didn't we, about how this is sometimes a corrective measure for what we eat. Yes. And I suppose the praying element is a corrective measure to get ourselves back on the right track when we come to our prayers, to make sure that we are being as mindful as we would like to be.
Yes, definitely. I mean, with the fruit, we're eating more fruit in Ramadan because we're opening our fast with fruit. Normally, I would not eat fruit the whole year. So it's definitely health in terms of food, and again, like you said, in terms of prayer, much more healthier.
We're talking a lot about mental health these days, and it's wonderful that mental health is now becoming so prominent in people's minds.
Yes.
During the period of Ramadan, give us a bit of an idea of how that can really make a big difference to your mental health, looking forward to the whole year as a result of having been through this very special period of time.
Yes, it's a purpose to life. We need to have a purpose to life, and mental health normally can result from not knowing what you're doing or not having a connection there. So that connection helps, and also all the mindfulness activities. I'm part of an organisation called Essex Mind and Spirit. I'm a secretary of that, and the whole organisation looks at how prayer or faith-type activities help with mental health. And there's actually journals to prove that items like praying or meditation and fasting, all of them help with mental health.
Well, it's been fascinating finding out more, and it's great to see what benefits praying really has in so many areas of our life. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, we must stress that should you suffer from any medical problems, it's always highly recommended that you contact your doctor or GP, as this programme gives you an alternative viewpoint to the health concern being discussed. Again, I'd like to thank our guest, Ustadha Sidra Naeem, for coming into the show today and sharing her alternative viewpoint. And if you'd like to find out more about today's or any of the topics we discuss on this very special series of shows during Ramadan, then please do email us at healthshow@islamchannel.tv. Join Sidra and I again next week for our last episode in the series, where we're going to be looking at halal meat slaughter and health. Good luck with the remaining fasting days, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Assalamu alaikum.